Well, I guess I know what I'm gonna be doing. Suddenly today turned into a chill stream. I don't mind. But yeah, like, for the most part, I vaguely know of the plot lines of Dragon Ball. I know that the Sonic series, well, Sonic X especially, does pay a lot of tributes and homages to Dragon Ball for one reason or another. Seriously, the moment the Chaos Emeralds, the 7 Chaos Emeralds and Super Sonic became a thing, it was already poking at the sleeping dragon, so to speak. Because if I remember correctly, Dragon Ball is a fairly old series.
Stronger than you think. This is my fight. No need to trouble yourself.
Okay, good.
That's how it's done.
That's how you get a lot of XP.
Be careful.
Just, the writing is on the wall for a lot of characters in the Sonic series that, yes, it was at least partially inspired by Dragon Ball. You have the main character who's kind of a snarky idiot.
Okay.
You have the best buddy who's not great at combat but is there for the main character.
The area is clear of threats.
The edgy rival who just wants to be better than the main character but fails in every way. So right there, that's Sonic, Tails, Shadow. To some extent, Knuckles. Actually, if anything, would Knuckles be considered, like, Yamcha of all things? Oh, that put a terrible image in my head. Knuckles gets Yamcha'd. Let's see. Silver is essentially Trunks, i.e. the time traveler who's come back to fix the past. I guess to some extent, Actually, I think that's the most of the comparisons I can definitely make. Again, not well versed in Dragon Ball, like, at all. Most experience I have is anything I've picked up through Fighter Z or otherwise the Team 4-Star Bridge. I've tried legitimately to watch the originals, and I can't. I'm sorry. It's like, it tries to take itself too seriously for what it is, and for my taste at least, it's oil and water. I respect people for watching it, I respect people for liking it. It's not my taste, and I'm sorry. I know I'm definitely offending a lot of people for that. But you know what? Eh. That's a lot of damage fields. These at least have. Really? Screw you all. You lived! Congratulations, Woofa. Die. Not having, like, the detailed cable TV that other kids had definitely took me away from most of the things that people would consider popular. Well, popular back in the early 2000s. No Cartoon Network, no Nickelodeon, but I still knew about the series in passing. Little bits and pieces here and there. Oh my freaking gods. Werewolf, enough! Sit down, please. Actually, come to think of it, out of classic anime that people would think I might know, here's the thing. I've seen bits of both One Piece and Naruto. I should probably mention that, maybe. I know people pretty much stand by one or the other for the most part. I'm a rare instance that stands for neither. I respect them, but both of them have their own flaws in places, in my eyes. For One Piece, they got absolutely shafted in the early days thanks to 4Kids, and it's led to an initial dub of the first several seasons that is just really unattractive and uninteresting to look at. Period. As for Naruto, well, one, very early, it leaned into trying too hard to be serious, and suffered for it. Well, in my eyes, rather. And it just didn't appeal to me at all. Specifically because of its humor set, specifically because of how it handled its plot. It just didn't feel right to me, and I didn't particularly care for it. I watched about the first season of both of those. And after a point, I was just like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. At the end of it, what I ended up glomming onto for at least a little bit, Bleach. And even then I stopped, because after a point, it didn't really... Just, many people make the argument that Bleach tapers and falls off pretty quickly past the Aizen arc. And I do see the argument on that, and in many ways I do agree. Because past the Aizen arc, it just felt like, oh hey, we're introducing a new threat, and as it turns out, the main character has the exact tool to deal with this threat that he didn't realize existed. Every single season outside of the Aizen arc seemed to have that structure. It just felt redundant after a while, and boring. Again, I stuck with Bleach for a while, watched most of it, stopped it. Specifically because, one, I was busy with schoolwork, and two, it wasn't interesting anymore. Shaman King, on the other hand, I loved. Yeah, like, to some extent, I think you can understand that, Daniel. Just after a point, Bleach just felt way too samey, and it felt way too heavily weighted to the main character's favor. The supposed stakes they were trying to set up just didn't work. I also did hear about that. I haven't seen the Shaman King remake yet. I want to, because apparently it's fairly good. The problem is, it came out at a bad time. Like, it just... I almost feel like the Shaman King remake should have either come out a little sooner or a little later than the Bleach remake. Because yes, that's a thing too. If it had, it would have gotten more popularity, it would have gotten some time in the sun, I think. And that's a shame, because Shaman King is amazing. It does well with its characters, it does well with its world building, and it's been chronically shafted. Hell, like, I've spent time every so often just trying to look up the manga for it, because it's that interesting. The world they've set up, the characters they've built up, it's something I actually wanted to follow, something that actually kept my attention. Yeah, that too! Like, the arc with Lysurg at the very end apparently had a drastically different ending, if I remember correctly. Come to think of it, Shaman King officially has 4 series now. In terms of manga, rather. Yeah, and that's a shame, honestly, because at the end of the day, I understand why people glommed onto Naruto and Bleach and One Piece and everything.
I'm on the job.
But it's for those same reasons that I honestly feel like Shaman King should have gotten more attention. Because it had a lot more time in the sun. It had a much better and less formulaic plot.
So annoying.
It had a much more varied plot. Yeah! And then, because of everything else, it got shafted, pushed inside, and we pretty much never got to see it. Hell, it's even been a struggle to have the original manga for every single series of Shaman King up to this point to have been translated into English. It was a recent development, 2019-2020, when they finally had enough money together to do that. And that's a real shame, because the plotlines that they told were so interesting. Sure, some of it did devolve into standard shonen comedy, but it wasn't afraid to poke at darker tones often. And if anything, portray a world full of morally gray characters. Even the main characters aren't exactly great people. They seem human. And, like, other than that, I think the only quote-unquote classic staple anime that I followed was Gintama. Because of the obvious. Gintama wasn't afraid of pushing the button, and every single possible opportunity it had.
This is my
I feel so somber and morose now, knowing that we live in an age where Gintama isn't over. Like, on the one hand, I understand it, I get it, they've pretty much tapped the well to dry and dug beyond it. But it's just that well-made a series. It goes about to be a parody, and not only does it succeed, it goes even beyond that. Whenever it's serious, you know it's serious. Whenever it's funny, you know it's funny, and more than that. And it's not even afraid to push the button on real-life issues, too. Actually, come to think of it, it was partially because of the Dekoboko arc within Gintama that Zinnia is a thing in the first place. Because that entire arc actually, like,
power within me.
the Dekoboko arc of Gintama deals with a specific character who struggles with their identity, trying to figure out whether they're male or female. And in some respects, I do have that issue myself. And it's come to the point where I've just settled on, okay, I'm in a male body, so let's try to be vaguely male. But even then, I do recognize that if things were even slightly different, I could still pass as female, too. I'm specifically hitting the neutral zone. Just, I slightly prefer being called he more than she or they. So, thus, Zinnia and Sage both exist. I'm weird in that respect. But then again, that's just how my mind works. I've essentially been in a position where, even after accepting who I am and what I want to be, it's not that much of a sticking point for me. I am who I am, and it doesn't matter what other people call me. That's weird, really? No gender-neutral term? Huh. That's...
We should work together.
I don't know how to feel about that. Like... On the one hand, I do kind of get it. There's a bit of a cultural difference. The US has just always kind of been somewhat radical.
I was great.
Default is the male pronoun. Okay. I guess that makes sense, considering it's a... If I remember correctly, Brazil kind of follows the same thing as Latin and... Is it Latin and Spain? It's more of a patriarchal society, which, that's fine. Focuses a little more on men, again, should be fine, but because that was originally how many civilizations were. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's just an event. That too, you're right on that. Spanish does that a lot, really. No matter which version of it. Well, again, yeah. Because I remember back in the day when I was learning Spanish, I do still know a little bit of Spanish. Not much. I can't carry a conversation anymore, but I know a few phrases here and there. I know that language, and most Latin-based languages, had some way of creating masculine and feminine and trying to force it. In Spanish, if I remember correctly, if something ends in an A, then it's meant to be feminine. Otherwise, it's considered masculine. So, hermana, silla, etc., etc. And on the one hand, I understand why they would try to make that division, but at the same rate, it does feel a little dated. Maybe I'm weird in that respect. Like, I don't see it as a political thing, really. I see it as, oh hey, they're trying to figure out the rules of a language, and they're using something that happens to be a material of the time. And that by itself isn't a bad thing, it isn't meant to be used as a political statement. Wow, I just realized that I've actually been talking about politics for a good 20 minutes. What? I normally don't do this. What is wrong with me? Ah, fuck! Answer, I'm dying. Actually, come to think of it, one of the bigger reasons why I'm so weirdly open about things, and especially when it comes to identity, is specifically because of the circumstances of my life, actually. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it at several points, but in the end I'm probably gonna continue hammering that button home. Maybe. I didn't have that great of a childhood. I was a loner, essentially. Didn't have many friends, didn't have too many people to talk to at all. I kind of just floated from point A to point B, did what I needed to, and disappeared. And to some respects, I still do that. I've been trying to break out of that mold for the longest. But with all things behaviors, it takes time. It takes slow and gradual changes. There are some things in life that just can't be changed in a day. And I feel like many people struggle with realizing that. We live in a day and age where things happen so quickly that we expect everything to happen quickly, when that feasibly cannot happen. And again, I didn't have a great childhood. It led to me dissociating from myself. To say that I'm mentally damaged, so to speak, isn't exactly right or wrong. Because what one person sees as damage, another sees as well-learned. And there's not exactly a clear borderline between the two. There shouldn't be. I've seen people struggle and suffer. I myself have struggled and suffered. Is it more than what another person has gone through? Maybe. Is it less than what another person has gone through? Also maybe. And that should be fine. Regardless, due to my circumstances and my different way of thinking, I dissociated. I grew to see myself less as a human and more as a person, if that makes sense. And believe it or not, the two are necessarily terms that go hand in hand. Because just because you're human doesn't mean that you're a great person. Just because you're a good human doesn't mean you're a good person. There are many people within our world that are decent human beings, but are terrible people. Whether it be that they're struggling socially, physically, mentally, or anything in between.
With this strength, I can make a difference.
And growing up, after a point, I started thinking about what made that disparity. And I still don't exactly have a concrete answer to that. But it's for that reason that during middle school, I decided to abandon my humanity. I recognize I'm a human. I don't consider myself a human. Because I've seen so many terrible human beings that I've started to question what makes a human human. And if what makes a human human is something like selfishness, and stepping upon other people to create growth, that's not the type of person I want to be. If being human means being selfish to the point of blindness, I would rather not be human. And it's for that reason that I've decided, yeah, I'm not gonna be a human. I'm something else. I don't hammer the button at home, however. I try to recognize that other people see me as human, and I respect that. But mentally, for me, I don't see myself as human. What am I exactly? I don't care. It's not my purview. It's not my place to say, if that makes sense. Should it be? Probably. But honestly, it's not that big of an issue for me. Psychology has, believe it or not, named this type of phenomenon. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I believe I've talked about it in the past, once at least. Okay, we're going the Divine Fist route. Because we don't need a healer. I do want to see Dragon Master, but I do recognize that Fenrir Knight is just inherently better. Yeah, I'll have to go down Fenrir Knight. And change the costume, just to make sure Twitch doesn't strike me at some point. Because I don't know about you, I like my hobbies. I do consider streaming one of those hobbies. And I would like to be able to continue streaming in the future. I can say, nice costume, but I probably shouldn't use it. Alright, well I'm at it. Training points. So, Kevin... One-hit class strike? Excuse me? Oh, that's disgusting. What? That's something that's wood element? Weird. There we go. And I should get most of the way to Hexus. Now just to get the levels for Charlotte, and Then get the item seed I need to properly class her over.
Defeat the enemy.
Torn apart.
This out of here.
Actually, curiosity. What? What is that?
Allow me.
That's gross. That looks cool though. You know what? Let's continue with story. Because really the only character I need to be at class 3, technically, is Kevin. Because at the end of the day, he's the one flooring out damage, he's the one that's wrecking things in the face. Of this party, technically, Charlotte is the one in the flux slot. Because Kevin is here to floor damage, Reese is here to debuff, as they usually do. And with Charlotte being the healer, I'm sorry to say, Charlotte, you're not as useful. Healing is nice, but when you're taking 20 times damage, suddenly healing doesn't seem all that necessary. And I may need to class her over at some point. We'll see. But for right now... Kevin, rip shit. I'm here to kick ass and rip ass. Oh right, I forgot. Since I classed up, I have more title slots. Specifically, you need... What exactly? Considering this thing is just gonna kill me in one shot, attack health ain't great. But I'll equip it. I'm surprised you don't have tough... Oh no wait, that's non-bosses. I guess Conflagration? Just delay switching to Kevin? Stat down MP saver. I guess downtime. All I need to do is make sure to not lead the fight with Kevin. That way, he can get hurt, get whittled down to 1 HP at some point, and then floor out ridiculous damage, provided I don't get hit. That's gonna have to be my tactic.